That radio chick Cheryl Lee here with you. Welcome to the Still Rocking It podcast, where we'll have music, news, reviews and interviews with some of our favourite Australian musicians and artists. Today we chat with Adelaide recording artist Nick Keys from the Late Starters about their last 4 albums and the making of their newest album coming soon. To catch up on podcasts from other favourite artists, simply go to thatradiochick.com.au. I'd like to welcome into Crabtree Studios today Nick Keys, the Nick Keys from the Late Starters. Welcome, Nick. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Cheryl.
How long have you been a band around town?
Well, we're not really a band around town as such because I decided not to do any live performances since my son was born, actually. He's turning 18.
So no live performances for 18 years. You've been a recording band.
Yeah. So
far you've got 4 albums and a new one coming out. I thought we might start by talking about each of the individual parts of the Late Starters because
Sure.
You've got some pretty heavy hitters in your band.
I've got a great team. They are a great team, honestly. They do their bits and they're doing fantastically well. The whole process, pre-production, during recording and after the post-production. Kim, my engineer, is also the keyboard player for Neuromantics, so he gets the cherry on top of the icing, and I love the guys. Everyone has some brilliant stuff that they contribute. It's fantastic.
So Nick, you're the singer, songwriter and guitarist.
Yep.
Some of the bands that you've been in previously, Rhythm Nation, Sticky Bits, Planet Square.
Well, today's generation wouldn't know who they were.
No.
You'd have to be old enough to know who they were, so...
Also in the band is Kim Webster. He's been in a lot of bands as well.
Yep. Well, he's the engineer. I sort of try and not to overload him with keyboard parts. It's only at the end, and he adds some just the final touches, like the cherry on the cake, and adds some strings or something, or some organ or something. It's fantastic.
But he is the keyboard player, as you said, at the
Yeah,
minute.
he plays Neuromantics full time. Yeah, that's his job, yeah.
And he's also played for Goose. And our friend Vince Contarino, he played with GT Stringer and Devil's Cabaret and Brian Cadd.
He's recorded them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually played on the album, because Brian Cadd's a keyboard player.
Himself.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But a bass player friend met him in town, and he said, well, come down and do some tracks. And so Kim recorded most of his album, one of his albums, I can't remember which one, a few years ago.
I love Caddy because, I don't know if you know this, but I'm the fundraising coordinator for Support Act SA.
Yes, I have an idea.
Yeah, and Caddy was very instrumental in the starting of Support Act SA, getting us going all of those years ago and putting back.
Fantastic.
Oh, you've got Enrico in there as a drummer. Well done. That's a catch. He's one of the finest drummers in Adelaide.
He is.
In Australia, actually.
He is world class. And just to give a little bit of a background to Enrico, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, he has rubbed shoulders with some of the best. But last night we were recording and he told me, this is what Andy Newmark said. If you don't know who Andy Newmark is, just listen to Roxy Music Avalon, just listen to John Lennon's Double Fantasy, and the list goes on. And also Bernard Purdie. If you don't know who Bernard Purdie is, look it up. And, for example, Rocksteady Aretha Franklin, Steely Dan, Asia album, he's on there. He's just one of the best. So he's rubbed shoulders with some of the best, including Steve Gadd and various others like that. Jay Robinson as well. Jay Robinson, I think his name's John Robinson, Texan. He played drums on Michael Jackson's Off the Wall album. He played drums on, not every track, but The Higher Life, Steve Winwood. I know these guys because I've got the albums, and it's like, I love them. When Enrico mentioned it, I know who guys are, so he's rubbed shoulders with these guys, and he's got a lot of advice and tutelage from them, and he brings that to the recordings, and honestly, I love it. It's great.
And he's also played drums with one of our favourite ladies of Australian rock, Kate Sobrano. I love her.
Yep. Also, he plays with John Schumann regularly too when they go on tour. He's going to go on tour soon, I think.
And Gwyn Ashton.
He's played with him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gwyn Ashton's off overseas at the moment, isn't he?
Yep.
And another thing I love about Enrico is that he gives back as well. He's involved heavily in the Adelaide Music Collective and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I think he was a founder or something.
I think you're right.
I think he's a founder. So, yeah, he's just a generous soul.
You are listening to Still Rocking It, the podcast with Cheryl Lee.
Let's break now for a quick song. I think we'll have one by John Schumann and the Vagabond crew with Enrico Marina on drums. I Was Only 19 from the Behind the Lines album. Back to speak to Nick Keys after this. We're speaking to Nick Keys from Nick Keys and the Late Starters. And your baby, the baby of the band.
Lee is
Little
awesome.
Lee Nash on bass.
He is awesome. I knew Lee when we had the studio. He reckons about 1999 when we first
Was he
met.
even born then?
Yeah, he's born in the 80s. He was born in the 80s.
Yeah, he's great too, isn't he? He's a very busy boy. He does a lot of work. Everywhere I go, I'm like, oh, there's Lee on bass. Oh,
Yep.
there's Lee on bass.
Yep. I just finished The Fringe, which was full on.
Yes.
He did the Beatles stuff and some other stuff as well. He's great, but he's also there when I need him. We've got to work around everybody's schedule and try and meet somewhere, and sometimes they're not available, so we try and work out another time. He's there when we need him. It's fantastic.
You've certainly surrounded yourself with some great players, including Rick Phillips.
Yep.
Now, he's been around forever and a day.
60s.
Since the 60s.
Rick's amazing because he comes from the old school of not covering something exactly. You do your own sort of slant, your own version.
Your own twist.
There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I've got a specific sound, a specific idea in mind for a song, and he comes up with something, and I was like, no, let's try this, and sometimes whatever. So, and Kim's also a keyboard player, so between us, we always get the best result. It's a challenge, but at the end of it, when we get the result, you hear some of the solos that he's done on a couple of the tracks, piano solo, and that's Rick playing. It's like, wow, he's really shining,
He's played with the Rustlers, and
That's right.
Our chairman of Support Act SA played in the Rustlers. Adelaide, hey?
Yep.
Everybody knows everyone. It's a bit incestuous, really.
It's a small town.
A lot of the people on your list have volunteered their time and their talent and played at our Support Act fundraising lunches. Lee, I think, might have been with Dino last time.
Oh,
Dino
yes.
played
He has
for
worked
us.
with Dino, yes.
Yep. And Rick, and is it his wife that he plays
That's
with?
right.
They've played with us numerous times,
Yeah.
and I think Enrico has as well. So I love that you guys are involved in giving back as well, looking after Support Act, who looks after musicians. Last but not least, the lady of the band, Brooke Marchant.
Yeah, she's great. She is great. When we were deciding in the early stages of who to use, I just sort of said, what about Blah? And Kim said, well, what about try Brooke? She's quite good. He's worked with her before. I said, sure, let's try it. And she's stuck ever since. So, yeah, she's fantastic.
I do notice one thing, though. You're missing a tambourinist. So if you need one ever, I'm your woman.
Well, you're quite welcome.
Or cowbell. What a great bunch of players. 4 albums and the 5th one on its way.
Yep.
Now, this is going to be a very difficult question. Have you got a favourite song that I can play?
One song.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a difficult question. There is the video clip of Coffee Cup off Fountainhead album, the 2nd album. That's coming out very, very shortly, within the week. And it's a professional video clip. Definitely a favourite, one of. And even Lee said that should be a TV commercial for a coffee manufacturer like Nescafe, or this is perfect for an actual commercial.
Get your people to speak to their people. And away you go. So would you like to intro that, and we'll play that next?
Sure, this is a song called Coffee Cup.
Nick Keys and the Late Starters. We'll be right back. We're back with Nick Keys from Nick Keys and the Late Starters. 4 albums. We've got the first one is Music for Pleasure, followed by Fountainhead, Organic, and the latest one, Old School, which we'll play a song from in a minute. You've got a new one coming out called Sold, SOUL''D.
Yep.
Tell us about the making of Sold.
A lot of my stuff is tongue-in-cheek, so you sort of don't take everything too serious. Take it with a pinch of salt. So Sold is similar, and I call each album by a specific name for a reason. So Sold is called Sold because this album has got a 1/3 soul music, a 1/3 pop, and a 1/3 ballads. Because so far we've had rock, we've had blues, and every album's got a ballad, blues, rock, pop. But
Something for everyone.
Yeah, and the actual fact, I'm thinking of calling another album that specific title. The making of it, so far up until now, I've been clearing out of a lot of old stuff that I'd written for many years, since the 80s. This album is all new stuff. So this is sort of the newer direction that I'm sort of like and going in, not so much, but the next album is different again.
All the albums are all originals?
Yes.
Yeah.
No covers.
Very good. Now, where can we track you down if we want to have a that'll listen to some of these songs?
Everything's on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, YouTube Music.
All the usual suspects.
Yep.
Just Google Nick Keys, Keys.
Yep. If you do that and the late starters, you'll find them.
Yep.
If you just put Nick Keys, there's about half a dozen other ones with the same name, real estate agent in the US and people like that. So you'll eventually find them, but no, just put the late starters as well, you'll find them.
I'd like to play a song from the previous album number 4. How about the first track, One of These Days?
Sure.
Still Rocking It podcast with that radio chick, Cheryl Lee. Welcome back. We're with Nick Keys from Nick Keys and the Late Starters. We know there's a brand new album in the works coming out, so stay tuned to your Googleometer. But let's go back, Nick. Where did it all begin?
Well, I'd sort of, I guess you would call it, retired from the music, and I'd got sick of playing live and cover bands and whatever, and sort of change of life, change of scenery, and sort of retired for a number of years. And then I was working with one guy who's a bass player, Darren Ashford, bass player for Fistful of Trojans, and he said, come on, get back into it. He sort of encouraged me to get back into it, I said, do I really want to, He said, no, myself and that drummer will back you up, I had a good think about it, and had a good think about it. I thought, do I really want to go play live, playing covers again to the, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, whatever. And it's like, no, but what do I really want to do? So I thought, okay, I do like recording. I've got a lot of songs written. So I started looking at my back catalogue and realised, I lost at least half a dozen or more, totally gone. No record of them. All I had was maybe a song title and no recall of how they went, no lyric written down, nothing. It's like, oh man, at least half a dozen were totally gone. I thought, I better start recording these before I lose any more. So that was the impetus to start recording. So I got together with Kim, I knew before anyway, and asked a few other guys to come and join me, to start recording. Some of the guys that I asked, they said, yeah. And then I couldn't get hold of them again. So meanwhile, I booked studio time with Kim. So we just started. They said, well, let's just start. I just, it's always just go. So I started recording, guitar, vocals, and then next week come along. I couldn't get hold of the guys. What are we going to do now? I'll just add some more stuff, so harmonies, and just kept on adding things, kept on doing things, percussion, whatever. Just each week went along. After about 6 weeks, Kim said, when are we going to get some meat and potatoes, meaning bass and drums, start really getting into it? And I thought, yeah, good point. He was working with Lee at the time in Absolutely 80s. He said, what about Lee? Yeah, I know Lee. Yeah, let's get him in bass. Okay, good. And then I bumped into Enrico and asked him, and he said, yeah, sure. So once that started, they've stuck with me ever since, and that's where it started. Then we just built it up from there. That's the short version.
I actually remember seeing Lee in the Absolutely 80s in the last Fringe.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the places he's popped up. And I just, there's Lee. Oh, there's Lee. Yeah, you've done well.
Yes.
You should be very proud of these 4 albums. We're waiting with bated breath for the new one. Do you know how much longer?
I'm guesstimating around about September release.
In the meantime, do get onto the Googleometer, all the usual suspects. Have a listen to the first 4 albums, and we'll let you know when the next one is released. Thank you so much for coming in and having a chat to us today. Really appreciate it. All the best with the launch of the new album. I'm sure it's going to be fabulous. Thanks again for coming in. What should we go out with?
One more for the road. Okay.
Yeah.
The song off the 3rd album called 10 out of 10 seems to be quite popular. It hits the spot.
This is 10 out of 10, Nick Keys and the Late Starters.
Thank you, Cheryl.
You're with Cheryl Lee, that radio chick. Thank you so much for joining me on the Still Rocking It podcast. Hope to catch you again next time. Get out when you can, support Aussie music, and I'll see you down the front.